What's good, guys? Your boy, Mr. Old School Router. Come back at you one more again on the Mr. Old School Router platform, and also what's planned now YouTube channels, of course. At the same time, have a very special guest. She done quite a bit for the industry to make sure artists and everybody else can monetize themselves as well and not get screwed. I want to introduce you, everybody. You should already know who she is, but I want to welcome Miss Wendy Day from Rap Coalition into the building. What's going on, Wendy?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm
Glad you for.
awesome. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you very much. I wish we could have did this in Chattanooga, but we here right now.
We're here now.
So tell us about yourself, Wendy. I'm gonna let you have the floor for a little bit.
Cool. I run an organization called Rap Coalition. Actually, I do a bunch of stuff, but I run an organization called Rap Coalition. It's a not-for-profit organization. I started it in 1992. Most of you weren't even born yet. And it's an organization that pulls artists out of bad deals, and it also educates artists on the intricacies of the music business. Most of you that are in music know that this can be a very difficult and challenging, shark infested industry. So we help artists learn what's fair and acceptable and learn how to travel through this shark infested waters of the music industry. Then there's a for profit side of what I do. That's called Power Moves. And what Power Moves does is when artists have investors on board and they have enough of investment, they come to us and we help them put music into the marketplace and monetize that music. And sometimes their goal is to come to us to build leverage to get a record deal. And sometimes their goal is to make money with their music. And we do it both ways. It's kind of the same process, whichever way you want to go. But we've been doing that since 1998. Probably best known for some of the deals that I've done. That's on the Power Move side of what I've done. The first deal I ever played a role in was Master P's deal at Priority Records. From there, I went on to do Twista's joint venture at Atlantic. From there, I helped Eminem with his deal at Aftermath and Interscope. After that was hope I'm not leaving anybody out. After that, it was Cash Money. I did the Cash Money deal at Universal. That was a lot of fun to do that deal. And most recently, let me fast forward to this era. I helped with Trouble. I got him to a point where he was able to sign to Interscope before he passed away. And I worked with the Girl Code, who are signed to 300. I'm pretty excited about that. I'm working with Atl Jacob, who has a deal at Universal at Republic. And I helped Little Donald become a millionaire, and he stayed independent. And I love when artists stay independent. I'm real close to Russell from the Bay Area, and he's staying independent. And I love that. I love when artists become millionaires and can keep 100% ownership of their music and the control of their career. Was I too
Oh
long
well,
winded? Was that
no,
okay?
don't worry about that. We like hearing you talk your talk over here. Y'all seen some of your interviews before. I know you can kind of go on for a little bit. I like that. You're not
Boy, can I
lying.
go
You're
on.
telling the truth out here.
I just feel like, for me anyway, it's so expensive to put music into the marketplace. And it really takes about $150,000 to market and promote and get yourself to a point in your career where the money's coming back in, enough to support yourself. And I just feel like, in a way, it's sad because being successful in music shouldn't depend on money. It shouldn't depend on how much you have to market and promote. So I just feel like it's my job to share with people how we do what we do so that they can do it themselves. I can't work with everybody, and I certainly can't work with folks that don't have a budget that's less than what it takes for me to be successful. I don't ever want to mislead somebody into thinking that they can be successful doing this and then not, lead them to the promised land, right? So I just feel that sharing the knowledge that I have and telling people how to do this on their own, where they don't have to pay somebody like me or my company, $100,000 to do this, that they can do it themselves. And that's important to me. And that's why we share so much information about what we do. And we're so transparent because I want people to be able to do this themselves.
Oh wow. So what the saying goes, like in real life, it takes money to make money then Ukraine, correct?
Correct.
I mean, yeah, I know. I guess the music is free. I guess it take X amount of dollars to market it and
It
put it like in
does.
stores, or
It's
I
it's
think
so
nowadays like digital.
Yes, and it's so oversaturated that you really have to stand out, and it's hard to find the fans. Back when I started this, the fans were easy to find because there weren't 100,000 songs being uploaded to, the distributor every day. So now it's so oversaturated and it's so competitive that you've got to spend money to stand out. You don't know where your fans are going to be. So you've got to spend money on YouTube and SoundCloud and, on the platforms. You got to spend money on the DSPs to get on playlists. If you want radio play, you got to spend money for that. To make content and videos, it takes money. To get up onto TikTok, it takes money. Like, no matter what you're going to do, even if you are going to do it old school and promote out in the world in real life, it takes money to put gas in the car to move around. It takes money to press up posters and flyers. Like, whatever you're doing, it takes money, and it's a business. So of course it takes money, but for some reason people think that with art, it's not a business, so it shouldn't take an investment, and it does. It takes a lot of money to succeed in music.
Yeah, that's facts on that. I can take it all the way back to like the early 2000s when I was selling cars. I didn't expect a customer just come to me. I mean, of course, you have people come in front of you, ask about it, but I had to go out there and make my flyers, give them a card. I had to
Yes.
market myself pretty much. Same
Yes.
thing, pretty much. You
It's the
got to
same thing.
put the money
I
into it.
exactly. I had a conversation with an artist recently, and he told me that, his budget was $1,000 to market and promote a song. And I
Thousand
said, well,
dollars.
yeah, I said, you could spend that in gas moving around. It's just not enough. And I likened it to starting a restaurant but not being able to afford to buy food to cook, to even show people what you can do. Like, why would you open a restaurant and not have the money to buy the basic needs? And even if you have the basic needs, how are you going to get people to come into the restaurant and try your food and, buy dinner from you or buy lunch from you? Like, it's a business. You've got to be able to market and promote.
Oh wow! You say so. For what I understand, you started back in 1992, correct?
Yes, sir.
Take us back to the early 90s. How was that back then?
It was crazy. New York was the center. There was a movement that was occurring in California, in the Bay Area, and down in LA. There was a little bit of a movement that was starting to bubble in Chicago with a guy named Tongue Twister. There was a movement coming out of Houston and New Orleans at that point in time. And there was a movement like in Miami and Atlanta that was kind of bubbling. And those movements all kind of grew. And in the early 90s, when I started, and I was based in New York, the attitude was, well, if you're not from New York, then you're not shit. And I never bought into that attitude. I just felt like everybody everywhere could make great music, whether you were in the US or in Europe. I just felt that rap should be for everyone. It shouldn't just be, where it was birthed, or, in the US, or hip hop should be for everybody. And I started traveling to Chicago in 1994. And that's when I met Twista and Do or Die. and I had just taken a class at a convention, at a music convention, where they taught us how to put out music. And I went from that convention right to Chicago and helped a label called Creators Way put out Do or Die. So the first record, the first single that I ever actually put into the marketplace and worked on was Po Pimp. And that song just exploded. It did really well. Do or Die ended up signing to Rap a Lot. The album went platinum. The song went like triple platinum. They did really well. And that's how I learned how to put out music so that artists could make money with their music. And it's been kind of an addiction for me ever since then, because it's a lot of fun to do what I do, but it also enables artists to get paid for doing what they do so that they can feed their families. And then when they can feed their families, they can build an empire and then start other businesses and employ people from their environment. And it's a chain reaction so that everybody can kind of survive and eat.
So with the type of work that you was doing back then, I know probably some of the old deals was kind of like lopsided, basically, before
Yeah,
you came in.
they were lopsided unless you had leverage. I learned pretty early, like with Master P, that if you are already selling music on your own and you can prove that you have a fan base, the deal won't be lopsided. The deal is leveraged and it's a great deal. So I learned to start doing deals with artists that have leverage. And then I learned from putting Do or Die into the marketplace how to build leverage. So I would start working with an artist that had a budget to market and promote, helping them build their fan base. And then I would be able to take it to the major labels and I could do a deal. And my deals were kind of well known. They were multi-million-dollar deals. So I would get paid for doing the deals, and then the artists would be able to eat because they made money from the record deals that I was doing. So it was kind of a win-win for everybody. And then I was able to reinvest the money that I was making back into the not-for-profit, which was Rap Coalition. So I was able to keep helping the next generation of artists that were coming up. And I still do the same thing today. I make money with Power Moves, and then Power Moves funds Rap Coalition to help artists that are in bad situations get right.
Oh wow, yeah, that is true on that. We like the work that you're doing. We do
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. So what was
I
your?
love what I do.
Oh yeah, I know you probably been asked this a few times before, but what was your first deal you had to get somebody out of?
It was Dizazz Tempo. It was a group. They were two people, Dizazz and Tempo. They were signed to Def Jam, and Russell had signed them, and they were just sitting there. It was at the height of Def Jam. Def Jam was the most popular rap label at the time, and they just were so busy with all the different artists that they had that Dizazz Tempo was just in a holding pattern. It's called shelved in the music industry. It's where the labels just kind of put you on the shelf and they wait until they have more time to be able to be more helpful. And they weren't helping Dizazz Tempo. So I stepped in and helped get them out of that deal. Dizazz went on to become a urban streetwear clothing designer, and he worked for everybody from Maurice Malone to Fat Farm to Aniche. He just went on in his own right to use his creativity, to become like the next level designer, which is really cool. And he and I are still friends to this day, 30 years
Oh,
later.
oh wow, that worked out for him too. Okay.
Yeah, it did.
Wow. Oh yeah. Back in the day, I mean, I love New York rap or whatnot, but I'm from the South. I'm from Texas, but yeah, I was growing up listening to Run DMC, Curtis Blow, and stuff like that
Me
in the
too.
early days. I'm only 42, but y'all grew up with rap basically.
Yeah, you must have. You must have. I've been listening to rap since 1980. So I've been listening for a really long time. Pretty much all 50 years that it's been around. I've been a fan of rap. So I was part of the culture. I came up listening to rap. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, And like I said, I discovered rap in 1980 when I had graduated from high school and had gone to college. And in 1985, I think it was, I moved to New York. And I moved to New York because I went up there for the weekend and heard the Mr. Magic Marley Marl show. And we didn't really have a radio show that was just rap. You know, our radio stations in Philly were more R&B, more dance, more, you know, a little bit of the new hip hop like Grandmaster Flash and Curtis Blow and Run DMC. But New York had a radio show on Friday and Saturday nights that was just all rap. And I decided to move to New York because I wanted to be in that environment. I wanted to be able to go to the clubs and hear rap. I wanted to go see my favorite artists perform. And that was really cool because it immersed me in the culture before I ever started Rap Coalition. So I got to really live as a fan for like 10 years, 12 years before I started working in the music industry. And that was really cool. It was really cool to come into it as a fan because I wasn't getting into it for the money. I was never in this for the money. So I was able to sort of live my dream and work with some of my heroes. And that's always cool when you get to do what you love.
So what did you do before you got into rap?
I went to art school in Philadelphia. When I got out of art school, I started selling advertising in Time Magazine in Philadelphia. I got really good at that, realized that I could make a lot of money selling ads or just doing sales in general. But I didn't really like sales. I found it very stressful. I ended up dating a guy who lived in Montreal, and one of his best friend's fathers started a liquor company in Montreal. And because I was working for the Time Life organization, I had access to a ton of research. And I pulled a lot of research about the liquor industry for him. And when I went up to visit my boyfriend one weekend, I brought this guy like all this different research. And he was so impressed that I did that he offered me a job doing the marketing for his liquor company. And I ended up moving to Montreal and doing that for 3 years, which was a lot of fun. I ended up running his company for him, which was really great. It was a wonderful experience because when I finally came back to New York in 1992, I had made enough money that I didn't have to work for a while. So I got to take some time off and just spend time figuring out what would be next for me. And what was next was Rap Coalition. So it was really a very beneficial time in my life. And I had made enough money where I could invest my own money into starting Rap Coalition. So I wasn't taking a risk with somebody else's investment. I was taking a risk with my own money. And my philosophy was, I'll just do this till it's not fun anymore. And if there's no need for this in the marketplace, I'll just go back to corporate America and back to making money and my life will be fine. But I did discover that there is and was a need for Rap Coalition. And, you know, that was 31 years ago and I haven't looked back.
Oh wow, that I like that. I like that very much. So what so you since you what's the art of a deal to you?
The art of a deal is having enough leverage so that you bring value to your partner immediately. The music industry is very, very, very high risk. You may think that you're the most talented person out here, but you never know if the music is going to resonate with fans. It's kind of like 1 out of 1,000 or 1 out of 10,000 or 1 out of 100,000 artists that can actually build a career doing this, meaning they can find enough fans to support and grow their career. And in order to get a good deal, you have to be able to attract a label or an investor to you that sees the value in getting behind you. And that value is translated by you having enough of a following and enough of a buzz that somebody that has know-how in the industry, or somebody that owns a record label, or somebody that has money to invest will see what you're doing, recognize what you're doing, and realize that if they just came on board with whatever they're bringing to the table, they could help get you to the next level. And having leverage in anything you do, whether it's inside music or outside of music, really matters. The more leverage you have, the better deal you can command. And the better deal that you get, the more chance you have of winning, the less risky the deal becomes. And that's what you want. You want a deal where you can have success, because the goal isn't to get a record deal or find an investor. The goal is to be successful, and finding a record deal or finding an investor so that you can remain independent is just two different paths that you take to get to that goal, which is having a successful career, a financially successful career in the music industry.
Okay, Wendy. The thing I was hearing about back in the day, an artist might get into like a development deal. What is that basically
A
cover?
development deal is where they don't really believe in you. It means you don't have enough leverage, and they just want to kind of throw some music out there and see what sticks. The problem is you can't be successful without putting a large budget behind the music, meaning you've got to get the music in front of millions of people before you find out if the music even is viable or not. So development deals meant they were putting the music into the marketplace, and they would just throw it against the wall, and whatever sticked, that's what they would put a budget behind. But time has taught us that that doesn't work. You can't really just throw something into the marketplace. You've really got to test it and see, what do fans want, and then you deliver what the fans want. You don't force music down somebody's throat. It doesn't work.
Oh wow, okay. So can you tell us a time that you were trying to work with somebody, but they kept fighting back, doing silly stuff to mess up the deal or mess up their situation?
Um, I don't know if I can pick just one, because that's like 90% of the people out here. Most people that want a record deal want to be famous. And when you're not willing to treat this like a business, and you're not looking at it financially, and you just want to be famous, you kind of give up the opportunity to make money with this, and you let somebody else have the power to profit off of your hard work. And I find that in the music business, it takes about 2 or 3 years until an artist realizes that they're in a shitty deal and they need some help. And it happens to more people than not. There's more people in the music business that aren't making money from their record deal than are. And you hear them talk about it from time to time. You'll hear, Meek Mill talking about not making money from his record deal that he had. You hear Waka Flocka, Uzi Vert was frustrated and wanted to renegotiate his deal, and his label wouldn't renegotiate. So you hear these stories all the time, and it's kind of hard to imagine. But if you go into a deal without having leverage and you sign to a middleman, it's very hard to make money, because the people at the top are making the lion's share of the money because they're taking the biggest risk. And then there's a middleman, usually in the middle, that's getting paid for their connections and know-how and their belief in you, and them taking a risk and probably putting up some money. And then there's the artist, and they're always at the bottom, and the money doesn't always trickle all the way down. So the artist sometimes has to go out and do shows or sell merch to make money, and not make money from their record deal. And if you don't understand how the industry works, and you come into this just wanting fame, and you sign a deal because you think you're going to become famous, I could see where you might get a little frustrated when somebody else is buying multiple houses and, lots of cars, and they're living a very, profitable life off of the money that you're making for them. I could see where an artist would feel a little disgruntled about that.
Oh yeah, I do understand that. Is it basically one of the reasons why the 360 deal probably came in? They weren't making money off the music. They couldn't
Yes,
recoup.
they weren't making enough money anymore off of music because of Napster and LimeWire. So people stopped buying CDs and started downloading MP3s for free. And the labels didn't embrace the technology and start their own Napsters and LimeWires, right? They sort of filed suit against people that were downloading large amounts of songs, but they couldn't stop the technology. So what happened was they decided that even though the artist was the last to get paid and made the smallest share of income, they decided to start tapping into the streams of income that artists had depended upon to make money. And that was show money, that was merchandise. If an artist was in a 360 deal and they went and did TV or film, the record label would get a percentage of the money that they made in doing TV or film. If they wrote a book, they'd get a percentage of the book. And it's not that I have an issue with somebody getting paid if they're doing the work. My issue with 360 deals was they wouldn't make any effort to help secure the TV show or the book or the movie deal for the artist, but they would take a piece of the income because their argument was that they believed in the artist and helped them become a star, and the initial investment that they put into them is what eventually led to TV and film. I just feel like if you want to get paid for doing something, you should do the work and then take a piece of what you bring to the table. That's always been my argument against 360 deals.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, I always I mean, a lot of people be talking about 360 is good, 360 bad. I'm like, I'm not, I don't rap or anything like that. I'm like,
I'm not a fan. If somebody does the work, I think they should get paid for what they bring to the table. But I don't think they should just eat off of every stream of income just because they put up money.
I think a lot of time, I think a lot of times on those 360 deals, they locked in like pretty much forever then, right? Or close to it. Off their
I wouldn't
rights.
say forever, but I've seen deals that are 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 12 years. And the career of most artists is on average 5 years. So even though it's not forever, it could be their entire career because the careers in rap music can be a little bit short. The careers aren't short for guys like, Jay-Z or J. Cole or Kendrick Lamar, but they're not average. They're guys that have put in work for decades and are able to really eat from the fruits of their labor for a long time. But if you look at the amount of artists that are kind of one and done, they have one song and they're done, or they have a couple songs and they're done, or one album and they're done. If you average out the long careers along with the people that have really short careers, you'll see that the average length of a career is 5 years. And that's surprisingly the average length of a record deal is somewhere, anywhere between like 5 to 7 years on average.
So back in the day, you have certain artists that has like a certain deal, like a certain amount of albums and stuff. They might did good on one album, but maybe on the second one they kind of flop.
Happened all the
So
time.
they basically gonna end up getting shelved then until
Yes.
a certain time they can be released.
Yes. Some artists got a third album, but most did not. If you cost the record label money, you usually don't get another shot. You don't get two chances to fail. You get one chance to fail.
So they basically don't get released right away. They just sit there, be a tax write off. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Happens today too. During COVID, I noticed that a lot of influencers were getting record deals, influencers from Instagram, influencers from YouTube, influencers from TikTok. And during COVID, I noticed Sherry Hugh put together a spreadsheet of all of the artists that got signed during the pandemic, and the influencers that got signed because nobody was moving around, nobody was out and about, and there were 70 artists. And I looked over that list. We're coming up on 3 years of COVID. next month. And I looked at this list from the first year to year and a half of COVID. And of all of those people that got signed, I only recognized 3 names on that list.
Oh
The
no.
rest were just sort of like, wait, who's that? Wait, who's that? And I wonder, did they get shelved or did they get dropped when they couldn't deliver? Like what happened to all of those people that were on the spreadsheet? Where are they? There were 70 people and there's only 3 names that I recognize. Where are the other 67? 3 years have passed.
Yeah, it was like a bunch of big YouTube. They got record deals. I'm like, I didn't know
Yep.
you can rap or sing or whatever, but I guess they can use their influence to sell records or
I
sell
guess.
whatever they
But
got.
if they did, how come we don't know who they are?
That's what I'm thinking. And also on some of those influencers, you really don't see them on social media like that no more. They kind of disappeared.
Yes. I think tastes change. And just like anything, you've got a window of opportunity unless you keep reinventing yourself. And I love that you said that, because I think one of the secrets to my success is that I kept reinventing myself. I changed with the times. I talked to one of my friends that came into the music industry around the same time I did. We just spoke yesterday, and he's really frustrated. He's a manager and he can't seem to get new artists to hire him as a manager. And it's because he hasn't really changed with the times. And I could see where that would be really frustrating.
When you say change with the times, what does that mean? I'm just curious.
It
You don't have to
means
say who it
the
is
way
or
that
nothing like
we
that.
market and promote music is
Oh,
completely different than the way it was even 5 years ago. So the things that we did in the 90s, we don't do anymore. Half of my staff, I have a staff of 6 people, and half of my staff is content. All they do all day is film and edit, film and edit, film and edit. So content on YouTube shorts, content on reels, content on Instagram, content on stories, content on TikTok. Content really matters today. And 10 years ago, it didn't really matter. 10 years ago, we worried about blogs. Are you getting coverage on the blogs? The blogs were how people got discovered. And then 10 years before that, it was, doing shows or putting out your CDs independently or cassettes independently. That's how you got attention. So it's in the 30 years I've been doing this, it's changed so much and so quickly. And not everybody has stayed on top of how to be successful in music.
oh yeah, you got to keep it fresh.
Yeah, you got to keep young people around you. You've got to keep refreshed. You've got to know who's hot and why they're hot. Why is NBA Youngboy and Lil Tyler hotter than, 2 other people from their city? Like why are they the ones that are doing numbers? One is independent and one is signed to a label. But why in their respective lanes are they making the most noise? And you've got to look at it. And even if you say, gee, I don't like the new music, well, it's not for you. The new music is for the youth. Music has always been for people that are 13 to 26 years old. I'm 60. I still listen to music. I still love it, but the music, I'm not the bulk of music fans. The bulk of the fans are 13 to 26. And that's the market when we're making money with music that we go after, because they're the ones that spend more money on music and attending shows and buying merch and purchasing NFTs. Like they're the ones that are in the thick of it. And if you remember back to when you were in high school or college, or if you didn't go to college, when you were first, moving out of your parents' house, remember how important music was? We remember the songs that we danced to at a prom. We remember the songs that were big when we got married or had our first child or broke up with somebody. Music was the soundtrack to our life. And as we get older, music might still be important to us, but it's not as important and as defining as it once was.
I did not know you were 60. I guess I can say rap kept you young then, basically, right?
Yeah, I think that my attitude kept me young. I hope so. I get up in the morning and my knees my knees sort of, crunch a little bit, and I get the ache and the pain in my hip every now and again. If I let my hair grow out, it's gray. So I definitely am my age, but I'm surrounded by young people and I love the music and I stay in touch. I think it's weird because I think on one hand I'm a very old soul, but on the other hand I think I'm very youthful. So I don't know. It's all confusing in my brain.
Oh my goodness, hey, it's all good. Kids are young. Whatever you got to do. But
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
I'm only 42, but I know I felt those knees
You
around
young.
like 27 when the wind blow.
Yes, that's funny.
I mean, when the weather gets kind of weird, which it is right now in Atlanta, I feel it too.
Yes,
It takes me a while to warm up.
yes.
So I'm going to ask a few other questions before we get up out of here. Of course,
Sure.
what would you suggest for somebody they want to get maybe get like a deal, however they want? I know you got to have money, but what else would they need to do?
Well, they would need to have know-how. I mean, if your goal is to get a record deal, you definitely have to learn what that means and how to get a deal. Most people think that you just send music to somebody that's already on, or you get a feature from a hot rapper, and that shit has never worked. I don't know who started the rumor that that's how you get on, but it's not. You got to put yourself on. You've got to market and promote and build your name to a point where the labels come to you. The people that do get signed randomly, and I honestly don't know that many people where that's happened to, they have something about them that has attracted a label. Either they've got a huge YouTube following, or they know somebody in the music industry and they asked for a favor deal, which never works, or they've built a little bit of a buzz and then gotten signed to a label and then stopped working, and the label doesn't really know what to do with them, so they falter and fall by the wayside. But the best thing you can do, as I've been saying all along, is build leverage, put out your music, market and promote it. Let the labels see that you can build a fan base. Let them see that you have fans, and then they will come to you. They always do.
Mm. Oh wow, that is great right there. I guess you don't see too many people want to be a manager. I guess everybody just want to, be famous and be seen, which I do understand. But if somebody want to become like a manager or kind of do what you do or something like that, what would you suggest for that?
I'd suggest finding somebody that's already doing it successfully and ask them if you can work with them for free for a couple months to learn how to do it and get the relationships and the connections. In order to be a great manager, you need to have the relationships and the connections to get artists through their label if they're already signed to a deal. If they're not signed, you need to know how to put out music and help them build a fan base. Once they're signed, you need to have the connections into booking agents to get them a booking agent. You need to be able to help them get a publicist. You need to help them navigate their career. And the way you do that is through knowing what you're doing and having the relationships in place to reach out to people that can help your artist. And if you don't know anybody and you don't know what you're doing, the best way to get those connections and relationships is to work with somebody that already has them. And this is an industry where a lot of people are willing to work for free. So you've got to intern. At my company, we don't believe in working for free. So we don't have interns. But there are a lot of companies out here that are willing to exchange your time for their accessibility. And that's how most people start. They intern for somebody else, and either it turns into a job with that person, or somebody else sees their ability and hires them away. But you got to learn. This is not an intuitive industry. This is not an industry where you can wake up one day and say, okay, I'm going to work in the music business. There are many people that have done that. I did that, but we are few and far between. It probably would have been easier for me to get struck by lightning or to win the lottery, both of which are very hard things to do. So I don't recommend the path that I took. If I had it to do all over again, I would follow my own advice and I would find somebody doing this successfully and I would work under them and get the knowledge and the accessibility, even if it meant that I had to get 2 jobs in the evening in order to pay my rent and feed myself. We just figure out a way to make it happen, and we make it happen.
Oh, wow. So I got a few more questions, but like I said before we go, I think it was a time that you was talking with Tupac back in the day.
Mhm.
How
Yeah, I
how
worked
did it
with
go
Tupac.
back then? What was your involvement with that?
I met him when he was incarcerated. I'm not going to bore you with the whole story because you can pretty much go to any interview I've ever done in the past to see the story. I've kind of told every angle of it that's possible. But when he was at death row and he had already delivered all of his albums, he came to me to put together the blueprint for his company, Euthanasia. And we were in the process of shopping his label deal when he was killed.
Oh man, yeah, that is true. Okay. I know I heard like different versions of the story from like other people, and I recently heard you kind of talk about it. I'm like, I know he would have had a great deal since Wendy was working with him. I can guarantee that. Wow.
Yeah, the
So,
other artists that I worked with, before and after him had pretty great deals, so I'm sure he would have too. He was a star and a really good human being. His goal wasn't to make money in music. His goal was to change the world.
to be a better place. My
Yep, he had a
goodness.
higher purpose.
Man, rest in peace to Park, of course. My goodness.
Yes,
Whew,
great
all
dude.
right. So this the part of the show that you can tell us where we can find you at.
If you go to wendyday.com, that is the one site that has links to everything that I do. You can find me on Instagram. That's probably where I spend the most time. And that is at Rap Coalition. That's my Instagram name. My email address is linked in my bio at Instagram. So if you needed to contact me directly, you can. And I recommend that everybody go check out my podcast, which is called The Cheat Code. It's me and 2 of my friends sitting around talking about the music industry. We give a lot of free game, and you can find that on YouTube. You can find that on Spotify, Apple, anywhere that you get podcasts. But the thing that I'm most proud of is my YouTube channel. I've got over 100 videos there that talk about different aspects of the music industry. And that's at youtube.com/this is Wendy Day. And again, wendyday.com has links to everything that I just told you about.
My goodness. Wow. I'm gonna talk to you for a few minutes before we go. I mean, after we get done, but hold on, let me get back on the camera real quick. Yeah, y'all got to see me. Man, we do appreciate Miss Wendy Davis from Rap Coalition for coming on the show, of
I'm
course.
so happy to be here.
I do appreciate you.
And you didn't ask me about cars.
I didn't want to be on here all night, but you know what? What was your first car?
My first car was an Audi. It was our family car growing up, and then when my dad bought a new car when I was in college, I bought it from him. It was a piece of shit. It was it was a beater car. It used to break down all the time. It was rusting out. The bottom was about to fall out of it. And then I started to make money, and my very first car that was like a real car, not a beater car, was a BMW. It was a 1987 3 Series, and I loved it. I'm a huge BMW fan. I still have a BMW. I have a 6 Series drop top right now, but I'm actually about to buy a
Okay.
Tesla.
Oh, you selling out on us, Wendy?
Sorry, I'm going
No, it's all
electric.
good. I don't know which one you're getting, but I know it's gonna be nice.
It's the S.
Ooh, okay. Oh, that's the fast one, right?
Yeah, I like sports cars.
So, since you mentioned Audi, what year was that Audi and which one was it? Do you remember?
It was a 74, and it was I think it was called the 100 LS.
Ooh, that's a small car too.
Yeah, it was a Porsche engine. It was one of the first Audis when they first came into the US.
Was it a diesel?
It was not.
Okay.
And
It
it
didn't
was
have
a
that smell then. That's good.
It was a 4-door car.
Yeah, I was actually looking at a older Audi. I think it was like the early 70s. Somebody was trying to sell it to me during after the
Don't
pandemic.
do
I'm
it.
like, yeah, I couldn't do it.
Don't do it. You'll
Yeah, I
put
couldn't do it.
I put so much money into that car. I put almost as much money into that car as I put into my college education. Like I was putting myself through school. My family didn't have a lot of money, so they couldn't really help me. And I felt every payment on that damn car.
Oh, I've been through the
Every
fire and
time
still going through
every
it.
time it broke down. I used to use Mazda parts because Mazda and Fiat were a little cheaper in the parts department. So I would go to like Shade Tree Mechanics and get it like kind of, wired back together. But I remember putting a lot of Fiat and a lot of Mazda parts on that Audi just to try to save money.
Oh, I've been through quite a few old cars back in the day. I recognize some Fiat parts on certain vehicles. I'm like, why did they put this on here?
Because it was cheap. It was cheap and it was accessible.
Hey, there
That's
you
why.
go. Wow. Hey, that's a fun fact right there. But yeah, I've been through the fire with fixing up old cars. Still is today. I don't know how many thousands of dollars I didn't spend. And still doing it, of course.
I can relate.
And probably still not going to stop. It's a hobby. It's a love deal. I
It
make
has
money
to
every
be.
now and then.
It has to be. I see guys like with old schools, and first of all, they 7 miles to a gallon. Like they burn gas, and then it's just the upkeep is incredible.
Oh, it smells good. That's a good smell right there.
Actually, I like that smell, but don't tell anybody.
Oh
I
my
like that
goodness.
smell.
All right, Wendy, I'm gonna chop it up with you for a second. Stay on real quick.
I will. Thank you very much for having me. Thanks for doing this. You're
Stay
awesome.
right. Yeah, stay right there. But of course, this is Mr. Old School Rider. You can find me on my social media at Mr. Old School Rider, YouTube and Instagram, of course. Miss Wendy Day Rap Coalition. We did it. I'll be right back. Stay right there, Wendy.
I will.
Stay on the line for me.